Yo, how's it going guys? Choxie here. So here's my build video that I'm going to be going over. This is going to be my post-patch build video, so it's going to be everything from my gear, trade, utilities, and maybe just some tips on playstyle as well. But yeah, after the patch, a lot of things haven't really even changed. A lot of things now are baseline, a lot of things now are, kind of given to us as a necro. So a lot of things like our staff skills are now reduced cooldowns and already have the increased radius. It's really nice. And overall, if anything, my build has just gotten more utility and more things to fool around with on top of what I used to have. So it's really great. I like my build. And yeah, let's get right in. Alright, so starting with my gear. If anything with this last patch, you know how you could transform any kind of ascended gear into whatever stat you want. So I went ahead and converted some gloves, some shoulders, and my hat. Because before I only had, actually, my shoes too. I only had my pants and my top ascended because ascended crafting is so expensive, and if anyone hasn't even realized yet, that exotic to ascended stats isn't even really that much. The difference is about 5%, and it's still, exotic gear is still very viable in most aspects of the game. So if you just want to go the extra length, I just had a lot of ascended chests lying around, and with useless stats like healers chests, I just went ahead and converted them all to rabbits. So right now I'm now fully ascended armor. I just stuck vital infusions into them because I do like the extra vitality. It helps scale your death shroud. Your death shroud, and it gives you a little bit more base healing or vitality. So all in all, it is a measly 300 HP, but I don't mind it too much. It's still gonna save your butt from a couple ticks of bleeds and whatnot, so I am totally fine with that. And as you can clearly see, I am still using perplexity runes. I do plan on swapping these out pretty soon. I'm just trying to get the feel for how confusion works, because sometimes you gotta use it to know how it works. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna stick with perplexity for a little while longer, but just seeing how confusion is so not necessarily stupid, but it's very strong considering it also does damage over time on top of on skill use. Because before, a smart player would be okay, I'm not going to touch any buttons, or maybe just disengage, get a LOS until the confusion goes away because I have no Kandi cleanse, and it was a smart thing to do. But confusion really did wreck newer players, so if they spammed all their buttons, it's just, GG, and they just take 10,000, confusion damage. But with the new confusion changes, having it do damage over time is still very strong, and it also procs the on hit or on skill use damage. So it's not as much as before, but still, it's a very damaging condition. I don't know, it's definitely still strong. We'll see how it plays out in the end. Alright, now going for my weapons, I'm still using Scepter Warhorn Staff. Scepter Warhorn, it's just my love child. I love Warhorn. It's just, I love the days, I love the life force generation for the cripple. Overall, it's still a very strong weapon set. Nothing really got changed with the base weapon set though. With the Scepter, of course, you're going to want your constant bleeds, you're going to get that poison application. Your number 2 is going to be your spike and bleeds. The cripple is nice as well and helps in AoE. And your number 3, of course, with the amount of Kandis you're actually dishing out with most Kandi builds, you're going to get life force per condition. And it really does help out, build your life force up when you are in dire situations. Warhorn for plain and simple AoE days in a cone. I just wish it wasn't a cone though. I wish it was just straight up AoE, but you can't blame ain't it. But 2-second unblockable days, very nice, very synergetic with perplexity runes. And of course you have Locust Swarm, which is your cripple, your swiftness, your pretty much your mobility. It's a half-second cast time now, so it casts fairly fast, and it helps build up your life force if you're against any kind of melee or just anyone who's stuck to you. You'll get at least some life force back for this, so it's very nice to have these skills. Staff, self-explanatory, and if I haven't gone over it already, as you can see, staff skills now have baseline reduced cooldowns, which is really sweet. You don't have to trade into it anymore. Radius has been baseline increased to the greater marks radius, so you no longer have to worry about your tiny butt marks, and don't have to worry about trading it to it just for bigger marks. So I really do like it. You can still stack region quite often if you actually use your blood as power. Not blood as power, mark of blood in the right situations. So I love this weapon set. It's just I've been so used to it. Of course I'm going to be expanding my horizons to different things, but this is my weapon set for now. But jumping into the stats, of course I'm still running Dire, which will be toughness, vitality, condition damage. Toughness to help your tankiness, because I'm running toughness on pretty much everything I'm wearing. And vitality helps scale your death shroud and your base health pool. which is going to be really nice because in this meta of Condis and whatnot, Condis piercing toughness, that's just something I wish Ana would try to change in the future. We'll go over that later though, but it just helps you survive any kind of like Condi bombs or any kind of sustained Condis overall. Sigil wise, I'm using Geomancy Torment on my Warhorn Scepter, and I'm using Geomancy Corruption on my staff. Geomancy almost mandatory for any kind of Condi build, especially if you're in close range, which is kind of what you want to do as a Necro sometimes. You want to get in there, land your close AoE skills, because that's where you're really the deadliest as a Necromancer. Other than, ranged Condi bombs, but if anything, you just really want to get in there, swap weapons, get 3 stacks of bleeds with Geomancy, and it's very nice when you do happen to land it. Of course, Torment on my offhand Warhorn, just to have as a cover Condi. If your Tainted Shackles is off cooldown, you'll at least be able to apply AoE Torment when, or just Torment on your enemy when that's on cooldown, if anything. And of course, you have your staff. Sorry about that, guy. Skype unwing. Anyways, going to staff, we're going to go with Corruption because having Corruption stacks is quite nice. When you actually do practice Corruption stacks, it's just when you roam around, open field, you're killing NPCs, you're killing a few players here and there. It'll help build up your little powerhouse Condi stacks, so that's always nice to have. I could swap it out for something else if I wanted to, but I just like having more condition damage overall. And of course, Geomancy for when you swap weapons, and that's just self-explanatory. Geomancy should be on both your weapon sets most of the time on any kind of Condi build. So that's my weapon sets, and now let's move over to trinkets. Alright, so trinket wise, I'm still running everything still the same. I'm running dire rapid trinkets. As you guys have noticed, or I have said before, I like a little precision in my build. So right now I have 25% crit. If you're running full dire, you won't even have like not even 10% crit. Having 25% crit is really great, especially when you flash Death Shroud. You'll get 20% from Furious Demise, which is the trait over here in the Curses line, which we'll go over later. But having the crit is going to be nice because it'll proc things like your crit sigils. Traits like over here will be Bar Precision. Crit is nice, and it does help out. Also, if you are if you just need a little bit of oomph with your actual physical damage, the crit does kind of come into play and help out as well. So that's why I kind of run Precision into my build. These trinkets really do help out with that as well. So nothing much to say about these things. It's the usual dire rapid combination here. So that's my gear. Overall, you're going to be not very tanky, but you're going to be fairly tanky with your armor. Over here you have almost 3,000 armor baseline, and your vitality, pretty much 25,000 HP. Lots of HP to go around, lots of HP to tank up or soak up any kind of Condis that would be thrown at you. And of course, you're going to have that precision. 25% base crit chance is not something to laugh at. Popping Death Shroud will get you all that stuff back as well. 45% crit chance is very nice to have, especially when you have sigils and traits that proc crit. But yeah, so that is my whole build, and literally nothing has changed about this build except for me getting a little bit of more ascended gear for this build. So moving on to traits. Alright guys, so going over my traits or our specializations here, we're going to be running Spite, Curses, Soul Reaping. So if you didn't know what I was running before, I used to run Curses, Death, Magic, Soul Reaping. But now I'm going to be running Spite because there's so much nice things in Spite to have now in this current build. So as you can see, we're going to start off with Spite. We're going to be going for right into Spite 213. I'm going to call it 213 because I like numbers. I don't want to be ABC or top, middle, bottom. I'll just go 213. So if anything, you're going with a minor. Very self-explanatory. Reaper's Might, Shroud 1 skill grants Might, so your Life Blast now give you Might. It's nice to stack while you're in Death Shroud or trying to buy some time. Might as well just find some Life Blast for that extra Might and Condi damage. Next is going to be Spiteful Renewal. This is a very nice trait that I really liked with my preview of the new traits, but it says consume conditions to gain health when you strike a foe below the health threshold. So this is the opponent's health. When the opponent is low, you can, gain a little bit of sustain. So this is kind of like one of those traits where, if it rewards you for your hard work. So if you get the opponent low, it kind of snowballs you into a better position. So if you get them low, you get about 1,000 HP back, and you remove a Condi when they're below 25% health on a 5-second cooldown. So it's really nice. It's really great for those situations where you're whittling them down so much and they're just not dying. It just helps you kind of get back up to a healthy spot just in case something does get turned around and, get the turn and burn if anything. So really liking this trait overall. Lots of utility in that one. Next thing be Death's Embrace. This one was the old downstate trait, and one of those new traits where you when they're low health, you inflict the Kandi. So when you get an opponent below 33% health, you inflict 1 stack of Vuln for 5 seconds, and when you're down, you do 25% more damage. Not much to say about it. RIP Downstate Necro, it only does 25% now, but still nothing to laugh at for sure on a full power Zerker build. And the vulnerability on a low target, low health target really kind of helps cover up some Kandis with that 1 stack of Vuln. Also, don't forget that vulnerability now affects Kandi damage, so it's not like before where you just be like, oh, there's so much vulnerability, but I can't take advantage of it. So now it affects Kandis. It's really nice to have. Next is going to be Chill of Death. I love Chill of Death, always did. I think it's a very, 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 in general, great trait for the fact that if you get a low, again, you get your opponent low, you can rip 3 wounds from up to 3 wounds and deal damage. It's not going to be that much considering you're not running a power build, but a power build, this thing hurts. But on this, in my build, it's more for utility, so I really do like having them in very pressury situation when I get them low, rip some wounds, and apply chill to them. So it's really nice to have in most situations, because in a fight the opponent's probably going to have at least 2 or 3 wounds on them in most situations. And then next is going to be Siphon Power. This trait is cool because it's more, again, it's one of these, they kind of tie into each other with these kind of executionary kind of traits. So when the foe is below 50% health, you can start snowballing, building some might. In some fights, I build up to maybe 12 stacks easily, and that affects my Kandi damage. So it's really nice to have that extra bit of might right then and there. So I really like this trait. I might be definitely looking at this one, maybe like an aristocracy build or something. And of course, last but not least, one of the traits I was really excited for with the the preview, and it just got better. So now, with Spiteful Spirit, basically when you enter Death Shroud, you cast Unholy Feast. So anything within a 600 radius of you, when you enter Death Shroud, will take damage. You get retaliation, and you cripple them, and you convert 1 boon to a Kandi. This thing is nuts. For so much things in one little package. Mainly I'm using it for the Kandi conversion, but just look at it as like, what if the opponent only has 1 stat, like stability on them, and no other boons? You pop this, convert that into fear, and it's on a 15-second cooldown. It's really nice. Also, what's great about this is that if you're blinded and you pop this, in most situations the opponent will get hit by it, so it helps get rid of blind, which is annoying for a lot of Necromancers, especially when you're running something like when you run into something like a thief who's just cloak and daggering you all day with that stealth blind trait. You can just pop this, they're definitely going to be in range, and then you can just get rid of that blind. Also, if they, when they cloak and dagger you, if they have might on them, you can convert that might into weakness. How sweet is that? So really liking the new Spite line, gave me a lot more utility. So this is pretty much all the use stuff I'll be getting, but we'll be going into our other trait lines, of course, in just a little bit. Alright, so next is Curses, the pretty much bread and butter of any kind of Kandi build. So going straight into it, I'm going to be running 2-3-1 in the Curses line. Starting off is Bard Precision, which is buffed to the old Bard Precision. Now you get baseline Hemophilia, which used to increase your bleeds by 20%. So it's free bleed duration for a minor trait. It's really nice. And of course you get bleeds on crit, which is why I run a little Precision in my build just for that kind of proc. Next up is going to be Plague Sending. I love Plague Sending. This thing is crazy. So basically how this works is that if you get 3 Kandis on you, it basically puts this kind of like a bullet in your chamber that will send all Kandis to your, or 5 Kandis to your foe when you crit them. So of course, that's why you're going to want to run a crit in your build. But when this thing procs, it's amazing, especially when like a thief runs into it and he just gets all his Kandis back. It is sexy. It really is. So I love this trait. It's definitely a little better than the other traits, but I love it. It's great, especially with this Kandi meta coming up. It just helps you relieve all that pain from the Kandis on a 30-second cooldown too, which is not that bad also. Next is going to be Furious Demise, which is the next minor trait. Self-explanatory, never change, it's still the same, but you get a little bit of Fury when you enter Death Shroud, which is going to be sweet to kind of maybe flash, or even just get in there to proc some crits for your traits and sigils. So nothing much to say about that. Next is going to be Terror, the bread and butter of any and most Kandi builds. Terror is going to help you get that Kandi spike on your enemy when you fear them. Has not changed. I'm just glad that it became a master again, because preview wise it used to be a grandmaster, now it's a master. So I do really encourage most people to run Terry and most Kandi builds. The other ones are very viable as well, except Master of Corruption. Oh, we'll talk about that later. But Terror is the way to go with this build, same as before. And next is going to be Target the Weak. It's this is another thing that I really like. So if anything, it's the first trait. The first part of it is the same. So crit chance increased by 2% for each Kandi on your. Actually, no, it used to be damage. Sorry, it used to be damage on your you know, for each Kandi, but now it's crit for each Kandi. So of course this will build up more crits. If you have at least 5 Kandis, I think that's 10% crit chance for free. And now with the secondary, you gain condition damage based on a percentage of precision. So I get free Kandi damage for running some precision in my build, which is really sweet. I never used to get that. Now I got Kandi damage for free basically with my new build. So really loving this Grandmaster Minor trait. It's definitely benefiting my build in a lot of ways, one way or the other. And of course, next up we have Weakening Shroud. Oh boy, this is awesome. So basically what this is that it's now Withering Precision, which is the old Grandmaster trait, and Weakening Shroud, which is the old Minor trait, or Adept trait. They combine the two into this awesome weaken trait. So before, how Weakening Shroud used to work was you pop the Death Shroud, and what happens is that you put Enfeeble around you, but it was a weaker version of Enfeeble. It was just like one stack of bleed for a few seconds and weakness for like a few seconds. But now that Shroud version, the one that the cloud that comes around you, is the actual dagger version. So all the effects are the same, nothing got changed. It's still going to be 2 stacks of bleed and 6 seconds of weakness around you in an AoE on use. Also, on top of that, if you can crit someone on a, I believe it's a 10-second cooldown, you can crit someone from afar, you get weakness from a range now. So let's say if you're getting people range and you happen to just put a mark on them and it crits, that's free weakness right there. This trait is just great. Weakness is still a very strong trait. It helps, you know, get your tankiness up there. No crits won't hurt too much. But I am loving this kind of double up kind of thing with this new trait. So really liking the new changes so far. I really do dig these new changes. Weakness, you know, piercing Kandi damage, sending all your Kandis. It's just amazing. And last but not least, we're gonna go with Soul Reaping. So this will be our Death Shroud line. Gonna go straight into it. So Gluttony, you get more life force gain from skills. So anything that gives life force, you get more you know, life force from it. So things like your Locust Swarm, when they hit something, you get a little bit more life force from each impact. Nothing much to say about it. It just helps you generate a little more life force overall. Next is going to be Soul Marks. So Soul Marks, the reason why I went for this is because I miss my unblockable marks. That's not baseline now. Sure, before greater marks used to be increased radius and unblockable. Since increased radius is baseline now, now we have to go trade in for unblockable marks. And trust me, unblockable marks, if you guys use this, you guys will probably be addicted, because there are so many times where you fight like an NG or a warrior or guardian that blocks all your stuff, you know, and then your marks go to waste and they go on full cooldown. At least with this, you know, you have some counterplay to go through it. Maybe if you see a engineer using Gear Shield or whatever you call Cock Shield, the toolkit for, you can put a mark on them, like a fear mark, and get the inner proc, and you can proc some perplexity, and everyone said it's GG. And a lot of players, they like to stay within the whole duration of their block. So if they're blocking all day long, even if they're getting hit by it, they don't realize that. They think they're invincible, but they have to realize they're getting, you know, Kandi'd up, and they're like, oh crap, what do I do? But yet they just eat everything up anyway. So it's almost a free way to get your marks on an enemy. So I really do like this trait. Also, to combine the old Soul Marks, which is 3% life force per mark trigger. So this will on top help you generate your life force even more. So great trait, like it. Yeah, overall I really do like it. Next up going to be Spectral, Last Gasp, the usual, you know, our for fun. It's just, Last Gasp is amazing. It breaks stun every time you get 50% health. It gives you Spectral Armor, which helps you build up your, you know, life force again. And this thing saves your butt a lot of times. That's all I have to say. A lot of times. Alright, so next up, it's not going to be Structure Mastery. I think I was using Spectral Walk for something, but we're going to go over the Vital Persistence. Oh, and Soul Reaping is going to be, you know, 2-2-1 for my build, if I haven't mentioned it earlier. I'm sorry about that, guys. But next is going to be Vital Persistence, Life Force Drain slower in Shroud, which is what it used to be. But now this is going to be combined with Path of Midnight. so your dash shot skills come off cooldown faster. I just really dig the faster cooldown rather than going, because this is where things kind of tore me apart. I had to choose between this or pretty much Master of Terror. Basically, your fears last longer. But I really do like the reduced Death Shroud cooldowns faster, because most of the skills in Death Shroud are very, very useful and very, very critical. So especially things like your Doom, which is your insta-cast Fear, that thing being a few seconds, you know, faster off cooldown will make or break any kind of fight. So I just opted to go with that because overall it's just best especially if you're playing aggressive, you're gonna want those cooldowns to come up way faster. So definitely a trait to be looking into, and the life force degeneration is actually quite helpful as well. So you can kind of stick in Death Shot a little longer in most situations. And next is going to be Strength on Death, which is our next Grandmaster trait. So this is where you do more damage above the life force threshold, which is back then, and this is where we get our life force back. So basically our life force has been increased by 15% overall baseline, but if you run deep into the sweeping line, you're gonna get the 15% back, because you know how back then you used to get 30% Death Shroud back in before the patch, but now you have to kind of trade into it to get the extra 15%. So nothing much to say about this. It's not really useful for me power wise because I don't play power, but the life force increase definitely is the thing to look at. And of course, next up is my baby, Foot in the Grave. I still love Foot in the Grave. I still can't live without it. I just wish it was like back then, or maybe they added a couple more stacks. But 1 second of stability can save your butt. But the 10-second breakstun is the star here. So every 10 seconds you can pop Death Shroud, especially when you're getting stunned or locked down. You can just pop this and just walk off happily, merrily away. So it also helps you secure stomps if there's not too much CC coming onto you. But overall, 10-second break stun and 1 second stability, or 3 seconds stability, is just overall a great package. I just wish the stacks was a little more. So that's my build. As you guys can see, a lot of things hasn't changed much. You still got Terror, you still got things like Weakening Shroud, Self in the Grey, so have your reduced Death Shroud cooldowns. Overall, my kit has just, if anything, gotten stronger. Especially when I'm running Spite line now, because you get everything in the Spite line. Things like Unholy or Spiteful Spirit, and things like Chill of Death and Spiteful Renewal, and just more utilities to add onto my kit, if anything. So really digging these changes, and let's just go back into utilities for now, and then we'll talk about some others. Okay, so next up is my utilities. So my utilities has not changed a single bit, besides the fact that Consume Conditions is retarded now. But I'm still gonna live through it. I'm still gonna handle it. I'm still gonna just deal with what Ana gave us. So Consume Conditions being our heal skill, resets most situations with the Condis, helps you get rid of those really damaging Condis, but just the 10 stacks of vulnerabilities where I just face palm. There's just so much situations where I did use a skill, it helped me get my footing back, but then I get bursted down with even more damage. It's like almost like I didn't even heal up at all. But we're just gonna have to live with it. Also, they increased the cooldown to 30 seconds, which is noticeable. There are so much times where I usually have my skill off or my heal off cooldown, and now it's longer. So very annoying, but it's still our strongest heal. I'd still rather take it over than the other ones. Maybe in a power build or a vamp build you'll take vampirism, but overall I just find it really. We'll just have to deal with it, guys. We just have to deal with it. Next up, Corrupt Boon. It's gonna be your bread and butter to get rid of stability or Aegis button. Also, considering things like quickness is now a boon, you can convert that to slow, and slow is amazing. So Corrupt Boon is still going to be my arsenal. Still very, very bread and butter. Still very useful and very great. Well of Power, my love child, one of my other love childs. Being able to convert Condis into boons helps your enemies, and it's a break stun. The only thing I still really hate about it is that it's a freaking targeted well. I'm really annoyed by it. There are so many situations where I'm just moving my camera trying to look at the enemy, and then I need to get Condis off of me before I could just tap Wall of Power. Now I have to actually target over my character, so I have to take some time and move my mouse to my character, cast it, and then start moving my camera again. You might think it's not that much of a difference, but I feel like it is. I was after so many years of using it and being casted at my feet, you kind of get babied by it. But Sooner or later we'll get used to it. So love and Wall of Power, especially with the candies floating around everywhere now, Wall of Power is going to be very, very useful in a lot of situations. Even though if the enemy's not running candy, usually they proc like vulnerability on you just in the circuit build and you get free protection, so that helps you out in the end too as well. And of course next up is Spectral Walk. So Spectral Walk, not as godlike as before. You can no longer jump off cliffs and survive fall damage, but it still is useful for juking. It's still useful for getting in position or getting or kiting, especially in situations where like with a warrior is using Berserker stance and you just need some time to just get the hell away from him, because you know when they're using Berserker stance, what can you do? The only thing you can do is maybe use Warhorn 4 or just get a daze on them. But overall this helps you kind of kite around and get in a better position if anything, and also helps with jukes as well. And of course the Breakstone is nice as well, and Swiftness is great as well. And of course next is going to be our Elite Plague. It's still great, but the fact is that you actually inflict self-bleeding and self-poison. So it's I don't know, it's you can't just like run around and laugh at people all day while you're in Plague, because you're going to be taking some condies on yourself, so it's not as, you know, powerful as before. But it definitely has like a counter, because it's a corruption now, so you have to hurt yourself in some way and be masochistic and stuff like that. But Plague will help you buy time, it will help you survive outnumbered fights, it will help you secure stomps. So overall it does hold more utility than just, you know, running around dirt perping and stuff like that. So overall, my build, I won't even really call it my build, but the build I am running is still pretty much the same from pre-patch. I just got more added utility with the traits. Spiteful Spirit is nice, getting Chill of Death is nice. There's a lot of new things I gained with this build. But overall, this build is going to be quite tanky. You're going to have a lot of HP, a lot of toughness overall. Now that you get condition damage off your precision, so running precision isn't absolutely, you know, useless. And my utilities do remain the same, so you have your boon conversions, you have your Kandi cleanse / conversion, you have your jukes, your swiftness, your you know, your positioning skill, your heal that moves all conditions but gives you 10 seconds of vuln, and your elite that kind of helps you with stomps and buying time if anything. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have more questions about the build, please leave a comment below. That's all I really had time for today. So yeah, I will see you guys later, and you guys have a